You don't get extra points in love for how well you can tolerate somebody's inappropriate behavior, for how long you tolerate inconsistency, somebody saying one thing and doing another. And you don't get to create healthy love by becoming endlessly understanding at your own expense. Real love does not require you to leave yourself behind. It should work because you're being authentic, not because you keep swallowing what's true to you. And it shouldn't work simply because you keep making it easier for someone else by making it harder on yourself. This is exactly the kind of pattern that we help women break. Because remember, the goal is not just to be loved. The goal is to be loved without abandoning yourself. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love Chat with the Love Twins. I am Gladys Diaz. We have such a powerful topic to talk about today. If you're not on our email list, go ahead and drop the word email. That is how we send you reminders, not only of the Love Chats, but all of the events that we have, all the opportunities that you have to learn more about how to create a happy, loving, intimate, forever relationship with the right man. So tonight's topic is the subtle ways that you abandon yourself in the name of love. Like when you're desiring love, when you're desiring to feel and be loved, there's ways. And again, Michelle and I are always bringing what may be in the subconscious. We help you bring it forward so you can shine a light on it, because it's impossible to transform, not just change, not improve, not tweak, but transform, which means to create something completely new, what you're unable or unwilling to see or hear. And so that we see that as part of our responsibility, part of our mission is to help do that. Because once you do that, you have got a real fighting chance to break free from the past and create a present and a future that is beyond your wildest dreams. So today, when we're talking about this, the ways that we abandon ourselves, that women abandon themselves when they're desiring to feel real love, to have real love in their lives, it's so important, especially if you're a woman who's thoughtful, loving, high achieving, you're emotionally aware, and you truly want a happy, healthy relationship. This is a really important conversation for you. And that you also want to experience what we feel is, the ultimate experience, which is the joy of loving and being loved every single day of your life. So why it's important is because when you are self-abandoning yourself, and I'm going to give some examples of what that looks like and sounds like, because it doesn't proclaim, your brain doesn't go, hey, by the way, you are self-abandoning right now. When you're self-abandoning, it's not like there's a proclamation, trumpet sound, and you're like, you are about to start abandoning yourself, or you are abandoning yourself. It's not that dramatic. It doesn't look and sound that dramatic in the moment. It usually doesn't even feel obvious. It doesn't announce itself. You're not going to hear, I'm abandoning myself right now, because obviously if you knew that, you would probably most likely want to do something to avoid that. It doesn't say, hey, you're leaving yourself behind, you're denying yourself, you're selling out on yourself, you're cheating yourself out of real love. It doesn't sound like that. Instead, you might hear, and again, if you are resisting any part of this conversation so far, and we just got started, I don't do that. This isn't for me. My invitation is that you just have an open mind, because if you haven't been able to create the life and the love that you want, the loving relationship that you want, and you can't explain it, because you've done the inner work, you are ready for that, you have been wanting and desiring real love for a long time, then I'm just going to invite you to just open your heart and open your mind. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge me. Just be curious. Consider what I'm saying. Not like it's the truth, but like it's a possible truth, and that there's something here that could truly unlock the door to the love that you've been wanting and dreaming of and praying for. Okay. So how this usually sounds in your mind, because it doesn't declare itself as self-abandonment, is, I'm just being understanding. I don't want to overreact. I'm being flexible. I'm being open-minded. I know relationships take compromise. I don't want to make a big deal out of things. And many times this conversation is happening before there's even a relationship. Like as soon as you start dating someone, you're saying these things. And obviously the way you start is many times the way you continue. And what has things finished is that this is going on throughout the interaction. I don't like to say throughout the whole relationship, because the dating experience is separate from being in a relationship. It's what you do first, right? So while hearing, I'm being understanding, I'm trying to be open-minded, I don't want to jump to conclusions, I don't want to make things a big deal, it does sound mature. All of those things can sound mature. When it's done inside of the right context, it actually does describe, those statements do describe what it takes to make a real loving relationship work. But sometimes, and many times, when you're in a cycle of self-abandonment, which you may not, again, just tell the voice in your head to shh down just a little bit, because it's going to resist this. It doesn't feel good to say I've been self-abandoning myself when I thought I was being understanding or open-minded or not, what's the word, not high maintenance. Okay. So those things, those statements can sound very mature, and there are parts of it that do have a place inside of a real loving relationship. But many times when you're in the cycle of self-abandonment, this is where you start disconnecting from yourself. And you're not disconnecting from yourself because you're weak or you're not smart or because you don't know any better or because your standards don't matter. Or it could be that somewhere along the line, you were taught or you told yourself that your standards didn't matter, that you have to be careful when it comes to relationships, that telling the truth, for some people, based on situations, and I'm not going to go into using the language because YouTube or Facebook will take it down, but they've had things happen to them as children that when they told the truth about it, they were either told they were lying, they were made to feel like they were going crazy and imagining things, they were told they shouldn't be talking about it. So there was a consequence to telling the truth that's true for you. And you grow up, if that happens when you're 3 or 5 or 7 or 11, you grow up thinking, well, when I tell the truth, the story that Brain makes up is when I tell the truth, I get in trouble. When I tell the truth, nobody believes me anyway. When I tell the truth, there's some negative consequence, right? I lose. Maybe you lost people because you told the truth. Maybe family members rejected you. Maybe friends turned you away or rejected you. So to be compassionate with yourself, again, this is a non-judgment zone. And it's really important that as a strong woman, and I'm not questioning your strength, but you don't want to strong, like white knuckle yourself out of this conversation. Because again, if you've been trying to figure out why is it that I am not in a happy, loving relationship, when I know I'm a great woman, I know I have a lot of love to give, and there's love that I want to receive, then just consider. If you're willing to consider this and not judge yourself, just go ahead and put a C, the letter C, in the chat, so I know that you're at least open-mindedly considering this conversation. So what I want to bring awareness to tonight is that, right? Because the moment you stop abandoning yourself to maintain a connection, right? Like I have to not honor my truth in order to maintain connection. Thank you for those of you who are dropping the C's in the chat. I see you. Thank you. The moment you stop doing that, that's the moment where love begins to feel more grounded. You start to experience mutual love, the love that you give and the love you receive, right? And you start to feel more safe when it comes to love. And here's the thing, for women, our top physical need and emotional need is safety. It is what we need more than anything else. We can't love, we can't think, we can't be at peace unless we feel safe. So if love up until now has been, and starting even when you were a child, wasn't a safe thing for you, the moment you stop self-abandoning yourself, you will start to feel more safe within yourself, with another person, and in a loving relationship. Okay? So let me talk about some of the subtle ways, because remember, none of these things are proclamations from the rooftop. Some ways that women abandon themselves, specifically when it comes to love, is maybe you've found yourself over explaining why you want what you want, why you need what you need, or you found yourself over understanding, like just letting things pass. See, there's a difference between being compassionate and excusing and tolerating inappropriate behavior. That's words, that's actions, that's the way you're treated, the way you're not treated. If it's inappropriate, it is not loving, and you are over understanding. When does this happen, right? When you're staying quiet about what you really feel and what you're really experiencing. Maybe you choose not to say something when you notice inconsistencies. Somebody's saying something and they're doing something else, and you immediately explain it away or excuse it away. You're noticing gaps between what you want or what you believe is happening and what's actually happening, right? That takes a super high level of self-awareness. And what happens sometimes when we don't want to see it, we're like, oh, no, that's not what it is, right? But you see the gaps, whether you recognize them and choose to explore them or not, you see them. Or maybe you don't share your truth when something feels off. This is where it's important to have a coach, a mentor, because sometimes your fears are interpreting everything that's happening. And so when you go to your coach or your mentor, you can say, look, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. I can't tell if this is my fear, if I'm just being aware, or if I'm just being fearful. And that's where having a coach or a mentor it's priceless. It's invaluable, because until you learn how to have a very powerful relationship with your mind, your thoughts, and your fears, then your fears really are doing a lot of the talking, thinking, choosing, acting, not saying for you, okay? But you notice that something feels off and you're not saying anything. You notice that your feelings are constantly being hurt. Now, again, is it because you're taking things personally, or is it because you're seeing what's actually happening? And you notice that you're feeling that your needs aren't being met. They're dismissed, they're ignored, or you're pacified, like, yeah, we'll do that, or I'll do better. And then it's completely not honored, right? So you see these things and you hear these things and you're feeling these things, but instead of honoring that truth for you, you begin doing what I call emotional labor around it. Like, this is where love and relationships becomes hard work, the emotional labor. You explain the behavior away, like I said before. You justify the inconsistency. You become what you believe is deeply understanding, like super generous with your understanding, or you start talking yourself out of what you already know. You start talking yourself out of something that you're feeling at a gut level. Now, again, if you haven't developed that intuition and discernment, then by all means reach out for support with that, because you're not trusting yourself. How in the world can you trust another human being, right? But this is what it can sound like. I always like to give you examples, because your brain could be saying, I don't do that. I don't do that. But just again, with an open mind, and you're just considering, have you ever heard yourself say this or something like, well, he's just been through a lot. That's why he's being like that. That's why he's saying that. That's why he's doing that. His parents were very hard on him. He's under a lot of stress right now. He's going through a lot. So he's either been through a lot or he's going through a lot. He probably just needs some time. He just needs some time, and this will change. I don't want to pressure him. I don't want to, make him. Some people will say pressure. Some people will say something like chase him away, or I'm probably just making things up. It's so easy to self-abandon when you don't have a strong sense of self-trust. It's just you don't trust yourself to even think what you're thinking and feel what you're feeling, right? So I want to say something. Being an understanding, compassionate person, I want to be crystal clear. It is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful character trait to have. Understanding is beautiful. Emotional intelligence is beautiful. It is all great, but not when it becomes something that you are using against yourself, even if you're doing that subconsciously without any awareness, right? Not when your being understanding of him becomes greater or more important than your honesty with yourself, right? That's where it breaks off. That's where it becomes dysfunctional, not workable. Okay. Because when that happens, what happens is you start to stay quiet about what hurt you. You don't say when something was hurtful. You silence what you're feeling. You don't say what you're feeling, how you're feeling to the person you're with. You swallow. It's how I swallow. Like, you swallow your needs. You just tough it out, right? Don't be so needy. Or you stop saying what's true for you. You stop actually not just realizing it, but declaring what's true for you. And that is one of the earliest, most common forms of self-abandonment. While not saying things and being like super chill and not high maintenance and not making waves, in other words, can seem very doable in the short term, especially at the beginning of a dating experience. Over time, like continued long term, in the long run, it will lead to displaced anger, meaning you're angry at him, and displaced resentment, where you're making him responsible for making you feel this way when you were the one who never said and never expressed. Now, are there skills that get to be learned so that you can say things the way that they're supposed to be, or not supposed to be, but how they can be said, so that the other person can hear you? Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you don't, and you keep swallowing, silencing, swallowing, you will eventually be very angry at him, which is displaced anger, because you're actually angry at yourself, or you'll be resentful of him. This type of thing happens when you become more committed to preserving the perceived connection, right, that you have with the person, versus telling the truth, right? So you're more committed to preserving, keeping the peace, maintaining the connection, rather than being committed to telling the truth about the experience that you're having. So again, a lot of women are not lacking, they're not completely lacking awareness. There is something inside of them that's telling them that something is off, but they're overriding their own awareness. in the moment. And this is such an important distinction because you don't get extra points in love. Like you don't get a badge of honor, a gold star, or extra points for how well you can tolerate somebody's inappropriate behavior, for how long you tolerate inconsistency, somebody saying one thing and doing another. You don't get points for that. And you don't get to create healthy love by becoming endlessly understanding at your own expense. And remember that being understanding is not the same as being aligned with what you know is true for you. Okay. If your compassion for him is costing you connection to yourself, then that's much too high a price to pay. So the second subtle way that women abandon themselves, you're slowly what we call like editing, adjusting, shape shifting, right? Pretzeling yourself in order to keep the connection with someone. So again, what happens is you start softening your truth. You start diluting it. You start minimizing your needs. You don't bring things up. You act like something that somebody did to hurt you or disrespect you it doesn't matter as much as it actually does. And you're just trying to be easier to stay with, easier to love. And what makes this a slippery slope is that it doesn't often feel unhealthy or dysfunctional at first. It feels like I'm being mature, I'm being thoughtful, I'm being flexible, I'm not making everything into a problem. I'm showing him that I'm a good partner. But the real question is not whether or not you're being thoughtful. The real question is, are you, your values, your standards disappearing while you're being thoughtful of another person, considerate of another person? Because that's the part that a lot of women don't see when it's happening. You can look calm, like super calm on the outside, and be completely abandoning yourself on the inside. You can be using all the words that make you sound and maybe perhaps feel emotionally intelligent and still be carrying the weight and being at the impact of what you're not saying, of what's not being said. And you can look like you're super low maintenance and easy, easygoing in the relationship while you're also being less honest. You're being less self-expressed. You're being less rooted and grounded in yourself. So it simply doesn't create intimacy. It creates imbalance. Right? Because intimacy requires authenticity and vulnerability. So if you're hiding, diminishing, diluting parts of yourself, this guy isn't even getting to know you. You're not getting to know the real you. Okay, because intimacy can't be built on one person's ongoing self-diminishing or self-reduction. A relationship shouldn't only work when you keep editing, adjusting, pretzeling yourself to fit somebody else's agenda, somebody else's timeline, or somebody else's requirements. It should work because you're being authentic, not because you keep swallowing what's true to you. And it shouldn't work simply because you keep making it easier for someone else by making it harder on yourself. So again, the problem is not that you're a thoughtful person. Thoughtfulness is an amazing character quality to have. The problem is when thoughtfulness becomes like a self-eraser, right? You're just erasing parts of yourself. You start erasing parts of yourself in order to seem or appear lovable to someone else. You weren't made to become smaller so love could feel possible for you. You're lovable because you are. It is your birthright. And love doesn't have to be proven or earned. I'm going to say that again because for some of you, it's something you're just not used to. Love is your birthright, and it doesn't have to be proven or earned. I want you to say it with me. Love is my birthright, and it doesn't have to be proven or earned. And if you just said that out loud to yourself, for yourself, you can go ahead and type it in the chat so that I know, since I can't see you or hear you, it is your birthright. You do not have to do a single thing to earn it. You do not have to do a single thing to prove that you are worthy of it. You are worthy of it because you are. If any of the things that I said sound familiar, and you can see that somewhere along the way, you learned that staying connected to someone else was more important than staying connected to yourself. And so you started disconnecting from yourself. This is exactly the kind of pattern that we help women break. I love that some of you are dropping that declaration in the chat. It's important. Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. Say it till you feel it. Say it till you mean it. The more you say it, and the more you feel it, the more you're going to believe it. And as you believe it, that is when you start attracting a man who believes it too. Because you want to attract a man who knows he doesn't have to do anything to prove that he's deserving of love. That both of you are equally loving and lovable. It is the absolute 100% truth. Okay. So if any of the things that I said that you might be saying to yourself are things that are sounding familiar, this is exactly the work that we do, because it's not just about what's happening on the surface or what's happening in dating, what's happening in relationships. This is about a deeper pattern underneath who you choose, who you attract, and who you choose who you tolerate, how you communicate, what kind of love you allow yourself to receive, that you can actually receive the kind of love that you deserve, that you are deserving of, right? So if you are ready to stop abandoning yourself when it comes to love, if you're ready to start experiencing a connection that feels and is mutual, grounded, fully 100% aligned, and you've never had a love breakthrough call with us, I'm going to invite you to do that right now. I still have one more thing to teach, but I want you to do that right now. Do not, and just notice the little voice in your head. It says, I don't want to make a call. Oh, I don't want to, I'm too busy. That's the same voice that's sabotaging the you know what out of your love life. Like we get to like, honestly, I wish I had the mute button for your voice so I can turn up the high volume button on my voice. Because it's so much more empowering to hear somebody tell you you are worthy and deserving of love. You do not have to wait years for it. You do not have to struggle to find it. Even if love has been a struggle up until now, it doesn't have to be a struggle now. So if you've never had a love breakthrough call with one of our coaches, we just dropped the link. Click on it. Choose the time and day that works best for you and show up for the call. Because if you don't show up for the call, why in heaven's name would somebody show up for you consistently? Not as a make wrong, it's the stuff you want to start considering. Where do I self-abandon? Where do I make somebody else's appointment more important than the appointment I make for myself? What we're going to do is we're going to help you take a deeper look at the patterns that are shaping the experience that you're having in love, and then help you with 2 or 3 steps of what's going to help you create something completely different. Not better, not a better version of what you don't want, but something completely new and different so you can start experiencing the love that you want. Okay. So here's the third thing, and we're going to wrap up with this. Third thing I want to say is that real love does not require you to leave yourself behind, like you, who you are, what you believe, what you want, what you desire. It doesn't ask you to betray your truth in order to keep connection with someone. It does not reward your silence. We're talking about real love now. Real love doesn't deepen because you become easier to manage, and it doesn't become safer because you suppress yourself. That is not what has real love, first of all, begin, then grow and continue forever, which is, if you're here, that's probably what you want, because that's what the majority of the women that we work with want. Their forever love for their next relationship to be the best relationship and the last relationship they ever have. Okay. Real love becomes safe when you can bring your truth, right? Your truth and your true self into it and still remain connected. That's what mutual love feels like. That's what's grounded and aligned and real love feels like. It's what emotionally safe love feels like, is when you can bring your truth and still maintain that connection with the other person, which means that obviously you're sharing your truth in a way that doesn't push away or blame or make the other person feel unloved, right? Because the goal is that you're both feeling mutual love, means you're both experiencing it. You're giving it, you're receiving it. You're giving it, you're receiving it. Okay. So for many women, this is the shift. You stop asking, what do I need to do to keep this connection? And instead, you start asking, what kind of connection allows me to remain fully myself? Instead of, I got to do something to keep it. I can't lose it. I'm afraid, because that's coming from fear. I'm going to lose it. Even if I get it, it's going to go away or somebody's going to take it away from me. It's what kind of connection allows me to remain fully me, authentically me, vulnerably me. Because that question changes absolutely everything. Because remember, the goal is not just to be loved. The goal is to be loved without abandoning yourself. So the goal, even though I know a lot of women look for this first, the goal is not chemistry. That is not the goal. The goal is not simply attention, getting attention from someone. It's not even closeness and spending a lot of time together. That's not what the real goal is. The goal is a relationship where you and your truth have a place, where your truth can coexist inside of the relationship with you and with your partner, where your feelings aren't treated like an inconvenience, your needs aren't a burden, your voice doesn't threaten the connection between you and your partner. When we're talking about real love, is that you can say what there is to say, express your needs, express your desires, express your fears, express your excitement, express all of it, and be heard, and not fear that you're going to mess up, break up, destroy the connection because you said something that was true for you. So sometimes the biggest shift in love happens when a woman just stops over managing the connection, trying to keep the connection going, and she simply starts returning to herself. This is probably one of the most beautiful things Michelle and I get to witness in our work, is when a woman starts returning to herself with the capital S, becoming who she truly is and was created to be. And she's able to not only create a relationship, but communicate her needs, her wants, her desires, her thoughts in a way that is loving. The other person can hear it. You both feel respected. You both feel seen, heard, loved, and held. That is the most beautiful thing that we get to witness, especially when the woman thought that it wasn't possible for her, right? Because the more rooted you are in your true self, in your truth, and in yourself, the less available you become for relationships that require self-betrayal, self-abandonment, hiding parts of yourself. Remember, love is not proven by how much of yourself you can sacrifice. I know some of you grew up in homes where it was sacrificial love at the expense of someone. Someone was paying the price. Everybody, or at least one other person in the house, was happy, but that person was not, right? So love isn't proven by how much you can sacrifice yourself. And the right relationship will never, ever, ever require you to disappear in order for it to stay. Never. That's never going to be asked of you. All right. So if tonight's conversation is bringing something up for you, I call it the stirring inside, here's the question that I want you to sit with. Where in love have I been calling it understanding? I've been calling what I'm doing understanding when it's really been self-abandonment. Where have I been doing that? So here are the additional questions, like, where have I been silencing myself? Where have I been hiding or softening my truth, right? Diminishing, watering it down. Where have I been making it easier for someone else by making it harder on myself, right? Where have I been doing everything to try to maintain connection at the cost of myself? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself. Come back to the replay and then just ask those questions and pause so that you can really answer these questions for yourself, because awareness is the first step in transforming this. This is where the transformation starts. And once you can see the pattern, you can choose not to keep living it. You can learn how to stay connected to yourself. You can learn how to tell the truth and how to tell it sooner. How to stop negotiating against your own needs and desires in order to please somebody else. And you can learn how to create love that feels mutual, grounded, safe, and aligned. When you have that mutual, grounded, safe, and aligned love, that is where you know that you are in the relationship of your dreams. Okay, the one you've been thinking of, dreaming of, and praying for. And that's the work. That's what creates a completely different experience of love. So if you're ready to stop abandoning yourself out of fear of losing love, and you're ready to create a different experience of love altogether, it doesn't matter how old you are, how many relationships you've had or haven't had, how many marriages you have or haven't had, if you're ready to stop this pattern and start creating real love without having to lose yourself, change yourself, hide yourself, silence yourself, and you've never, ever, ever had a love breakthrough call with one of our coaches, I'm going to make that invitation again. Give this as a gift to yourself. The future you is going to be so thankful that you clicked on the link and that you scheduled a call and you come to the call with the willingness to see what you haven't been able to see on your own and to hear those next steps so that you can feel like, I am doing this for me. Yes, I want a happy, loving relationship, and I'm doing this first for the relationship with me so that I can attract someone who is attracted to that kind of woman. Because the only men who are going to be attracted to that kind of woman is a man who also respects and honors himself and knows that love isn't something he has to fight for, that he has to prove himself for, or that he has to diminish himself for. That's how you attract aligned love, an energetic match to what you are putting out. Okay, so we'll help you uncover those deeper patterns. You're going to walk away with clarity, awareness, and real next steps to create the kind of relationship that truly honors who you are and what your heart truly desires. Okay, because remember, love was never meant to cost you yourself, and love is my birthright. Say it with me again. Love is my birthright, and it doesn't have to be proven or earned. I am worthy of it because I am. I am deserving of it because I am. Okay, so thank you for being here with me tonight. We look forward to connecting with you on the Love Discovery Call. Make sure you click on that link. If you've got a girlfriend, a friend, a sister, a mother, a coworker who you know would benefit from this message, I'm going to invite you to do two things. Somewhere on the device that you're watching me on right now, there is a button to share this live stream. We call it the love stream, right? To share this love stream with. So go ahead and share it with her, or just go ahead and share it to your page on whichever platform you're using, and trust that it's reaching the person who most needs it. And the second thing is, let her know, hey, there's a link in the chat, and you can actually have a conversation with a coach, and they're going to help you unpack this and give you real, not woo-woo, not fluffy steps, real steps that you can take to break this pattern and this cycle once and for all, so that you can attract the happy, loving relationship you desire and deserve. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to connect with you on the call. And until our hearts meet again, always remember that you are loved. Goodbye for now.